Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome one of the most eminent and prominent industry leaders in the IT space and AI space, Mr. Varad Ganjoo, who happens to be the co-founder and the CTO of Hive company. And this gentleman is based out of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. So, Varad, off to you. So, why don't you introduce about yourself to our listeners in depth and about your company, Hive?
Absolutely. Well, as you said, my name is Varad, and I am the Chief Technology Officer and the co-founder of Hive. Um, I have always been passionate about AI and IT space in general, and with that passion, I carry on with leading Hive to develop architectures and solutions for the upcoming AI world. And our mission overall as an organization is to ensure that we're able to provide businesses with all the right tools to enhance their productivity and their ability to perform their duties as successfully as possible.
That's a pretty good description. So, Varun, also about it, like if you want, you could just give me a head site about about your company Hive also, like which places it is based in and all of that.
Absolutely. Hive is currently based in Dallas, Texas, and however, we also do operate out of Melbourne as well as in India, where
All right.
we serve clients essentially on a global scale.
That's a pretty good description, Bharat. So it's a pretty good, promising start, and would like to know more about Hive as we go, as we dig deep into this podcast session. So at the stroke of this hour, which is 10:04 p.m. IST, let's kick off with the podcast episode. All right. So, Varad, let's talk about the inception of your journey in the space of AI and IT.
So, while my journey started when I was in grade seven. My dad had actually decided to teach me how to code in Java. Really throwing me in the deep end there. But it was honestly one of the best things that could have ever happened to me because that gave me this interest in programming and developing applications, developing solutions, and coming up with architectures that were really creative. Over time, I gained a passion or an interest in systems that can adapt and think while they perform their tasks. So that was my sort of first introduction to AI as such. And I remember when I was in uni, I had to pick my major. I I did not even think twice. I was doing a double degree in engineering and computer science. I didn't even think twice. I said, "Hey, I want to do robotics, and I want to in computer science. I do want to work on Internet of Things." Essentially, seeing how the physical world and the software world sort of meld together in this great technological era, if you will. Um, Over time, I started to gain a deep interest in how artificial intelligence, specifically how machine learning actually works as a whole. And I remember there being this YouTube video which was 72 hours long, and I
Oh,
remember just watching that entire YouTube video in like 3-4 days and completing all the tasks and all the challenges in there. And it gave me a really good understanding of how basic AI systems work, your linear regression, all the way up to how deep neural networks and things like that work. Um, with Neural Hive, it was a very interesting story. My co-founder and we had a chat one time, and we were essentially talking about all these different challenges that we face in our organization. And one of the biggest things was that there is this false sort of decision that we have to make, that organizations have to make, and for good reason, of course, is that sometimes you're not allowed to use certain applications in the name of security. And one of the organization that I worked in at the time, we had very heavy restrictions on what applications we can and can't use. And ChatGPT was very big at the time. And the thing was that even though ChatGPT could have helped my colleagues and I with a lot of our work, the issue was that every other week you were see on the news that there was a data leak, and
Oh,
it was very it was very off-putting that, hey, there's this amazing piece of technology that can really help us with our work, but we can't really use it because a lot of our organization's data is confidential, and it it creates a whole problem that we just don't want to be involved in.
all
So
right.
that conversation essentially gave us the inspiration to start this endeavor of Neural Hive, where we, took it upon ourselves to create systems that are secure and intelligent, where companies won't have to pick between either security or productivity.
All right. So, Varad, when you and your founder came to know about the data leak, like what was your inner reaction? Like, were you people alarmed by that, or were you like, okay, we'll just fix it in the long run? Like, what was the situation back then?
So it when so back then we weren't a part of Neural Hive, right? So back then when we tried to use ChatGPT for our work, we were always sort of scared that, hey, what if the data gets leaked to the wrong person? It's one of those cases where you're working for a business and you put in certain confidential information. You don't want that to go to your competitor, or even worse, if you're dealing with client data, you don't want that to end up in the hands of a
Exactly.
cyber attacker,
Yeah.
right? So because of that, it was always we had to ensure that we are not going to use ChatGPT at all for the work. It was sad because it was a very interesting and a prominent piece of technology, and we know that there were a lot of great use cases for it. However, you know, security is the utmost importance. So it, yeah, it sucked in short.
Absolutely, absolutely. Security is the prime reason for for the business to actually be a little bit confident that their data and everything is in order and nothing has been leaked out of any confidentiality matter. So now, Bharat, if I would just like to understand this, like, what were the key initiatives that were taken by you to spearhead the development of GENii and PERSONii in your organization?
So Jenny essentially came out of one of those conversations that I was talking about. And, um, we really wanted to prove that this whole narrative of security versus productivity, this was all a false choice.
Okay.
Our breakthrough was very simple, but it was very powerful. Instead of taking your data to AI, we wanted to bring AI to your data. And
Hmm.
that completely changed the way we approach the architecture. We went with air gap systems, and we went with modular approach that work within this environment um, to ensure the utmost security. However, also make sure that we were, you know, constantly innovating with how we enhance organizations' data analysis capabilities.
All
Um,
right.
as we kept on building upon GENii, what we realized was, and this was honestly one of the most beautiful things, is that it the AI system, the whole application itself, was essentially based on a question and answer approach, and the answers that were coming out of GENii were far more accurate. The reason for that is because when you containerize all your data, you have nowhere else to go. You are stuck with your data. And
Exactly.
so now we essentially had built this, hyper capability, which could, within a couple of seconds introduce, figure out what you're looking for and provide you with the relevant information. And also, it can provide you with where it got that information. And it will also be able to, look in multiple databases as well as your documents and combine everything together to analyze how to answer your question and what exactly the answer should be. I always tell people that, GENI doesn't just give you answers. It's like your organization's memory.
Hmm.
It's accessible in seconds, but it's also secured forever.
All right.
So yeah, and when we had finalized everything with GENI, we realized that we had accidentally built something that is a little more intricate than just a question and answer, application.
Right.
We had built this framework or a foundation, if you will, that allowed us to build intelligent automations on top, meaning that now we can perform a lot of automated tasks based on organizational information. So think about, writing emails to, replying back to emails. Let's say your customer is asking you about warranty period on a certain product.
Hmm.
GENI will quickly get the product, get the warranty policy around it, draft an email for you, and all you have to do is press send without compromising on the security aspect.
Meet GENI, your secure, enterprise-grade AI platform. This is the Advisor, an intuitive interface where any user in your organization can ask complex questions and receive accurate, fully cited answers. Watch as we pose a detailed clinical query, far more complex than a simple keyword search. Instantly, GENI gets to work. It doesn't just give an answer, it provides a comprehensive, structured analysis. It identifies the most likely condition based on the symptoms and explains its reasoning with key supporting features. To ensure trust and allow for verification, GENI provides its sources and even surfaces relevant images from its knowledge base. It summarizes the findings in a clear, easy-to-read table and, crucially, provides actionable next steps. This is the power of grounded, reliable AI. GENI maintains a conversational context, allowing users to ask follow-up questions for deeper insights. Here, it provides a detailed clinical breakdown of the specific type of rash mentioned, and GENI's capabilities extend across domains. Let's switch from medicine to finance. We can ask for specific structured data like NVIDIA's daily closing stock prices for March 2024. GENI retrieves this information directly from a connected database. But GENI goes beyond simple data retrieval. It can synthesize information from multiple sources. Here, we ask it to compare the stock performance with market commentary from the same period. GENI analyzes both the structured data and the unstructured commentary to deliver a nuanced summary of market conditions, investor sentiment, and their impact on the stock price, providing insights that would typically require hours of manual research. So, how does GENI get this smart? Welcome to the studio. This is the administrative backend where you train, manage, and secure your AI. Administrators can train GENI on your organization's unique data, from documents and websites to, as you see here, video content. We are adding a new dataset named Minimize a Scar, proper wound care tips from dermatologists, using a public YouTube video. The process is simple. Categorize the content, name the dataset, provide the source, and click Train. GENI's engine processes and indexes the content, making it a new, verifiable part of its knowledge base. Now, let's see the immediate result of that training. We switch back to the advisor and ask a question based on the video we just added. And there it is. GENii provides a perfect, detailed answer with steps derived directly from the video content it was just trained on. Notice the source link, which points directly to the information source, ensuring complete transparency and trust. Enterprise-grade AI requires robust security. In the studio, you have granular control over your content. The Access Control Matrix allows administrators to easily define which user groups can access specific categories of information, ensuring sensitive data is protected and users only see what is relevant to their role. Let's see this in action. A user with full permissions gets a comprehensive answer about GENii. Now, the administrator revokes access to that content category for the user's group. When the user asks the exact same question again, GENii respects the new policy and states it does not have the relevant data. Your information remains secure and compliant. Finally, there's the companion. Bring the power of GENii to any application, internal portal, or public website. The companion is a fully configurable and embeddable widget that integrates directly into your user's workflow. It supports full authentication, including single sign-on, to deliver a personalized and secure experience wherever your users are.
Yeah, so PERSONii, on the other hand, was actually born from building GENii. The concepts came from, once we had built GENii, we realized we can use these same concepts to solve a completely different problem.
All right.
The idea was that these days, personalization feels it doesn't feel very personal. Yeah. You go on Instagram, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook. What you'll start to notice is that if you and your friend are in the same room and you both open Instagram or Facebook, you'll realize that, hey, we're kind of getting the same reels these days. Or you're sending each other reels, and the other one goes, hey, I've already seen this. And that was happening with, and that this same thing is happening with a lot of different organizations, and a lot of different personalization algorithms.
All right.
What we had realized was we're essentially we're able to use the principles that we had learned from GENii to create a hyper personalized system that actually understands what you like. It understands it in context rather than simply just looking at the type of content you're looking at or approximating. It understands the complete context. For example, if you love watching sci-fi movies, we can use PERSONii to recommend you dystopian novels.
Okay.
So it works in cross-domain. And the beautiful part of this is that it's not limited to just one source of data. For example, if you're watching a movie on Netflix, all the movies that will be recommended to you on Netflix will be based on what you have watched on Netflix. However, if you want a sort of recommendation, which, you can get based on watching, let's say you've watched certain types of movies on Prime, certain types of movies on Netflix, Apple TV, PERSONii will be able to understand all three of them and sort of give you a combined recommendation as to what type of movie you would like to see.
Oh, wow.
With PERSONii, we're not just showing you more of the same things, but it's rather discovering patterns that of what you might like and what you might find amazing, and you would never even think to look for.
So basically, you're trying to say that, when you had told me about the sci-fi movies, it's actually going to the related pattern of dystopian novels, because that is the foundation from the sci-fi movies, and it's all the way hitting to there. So that's a pretty good
Absolutely.
connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even something that we, train it on. It's something it just figures out on its own.
That's a pretty good approach, Varad. Now, Varad, you just were mentioning in the starting that, Personi actually goes with the question and answer thing. Now, when you talk about the question and answer thing, the only thing that, strikes me is the decision tree. So for Personi, do you follow any decision tree kind of a thing in the background, like since it is, related to AI? So is there anything in the making for that?
So Pisani actually is intelligent enough to form its own conclusions as to what connects with what. You know,
Okay.
if there is a connection between sci-fi and dystopian novels, sci-fi movies and dystopian novels, it will be automatically able to, assess that. It's kind of, to make it as simple to understand, it's kind of building its own decisions as to what to recommend you. All we do is sit back and go, "Hey, you got this."
That's pretty interesting, Varad. And also, our listeners also would find it really interesting when they're going to know more about it through this session. Yeah. And then now, Varad, like, how would you like to describe your experience at the helm of being the co-founder and the CTO of your company, Neuralife?
Honestly, it's kind of like being a conductor of a very complicated orchestra where the instruments are being invented while you're sort of playing the music, you know. And it's very interesting to go from full on coding developer mode. I have my developer hat on. I am knee deep in bugs and fixing this and that, all the way to 2 hours later speaking with a client who has no idea how AI or the whole IT infrastructure works, and I'm explaining to them in a language they understand that, hey, this is why you need what you need. And it's honestly like it keeps you on your toes, if I'm being honest with you. But it's
Okay.
the best part is when we see the solutions that we build come to life. It's like, oh wow, that is working. And just being able to see how it can help our customers with improving their lives, and them telling us about how it makes a big difference on um, their day-to-day life. The toughest part, I would say,
Okay.
is the way the how quickly AI is moving.
Hmm.
It sometimes gets very difficult to ensure that, hey, we don't just get caught up with the hype, and we are always ensuring that we don't want to lose sight of security while we are implementing all these new features. So yeah, I mean, every time there is a new model release, you're always at the helm of testing it. Making sure that everything is working fine, everything is working quickly. We don't want to compromise on speed. We don't want to compromise on security. It's amazing. I have had an absolute blast being being a CTO.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Varad, like as a CTO, let's say, I mean, you just have come across like certain updates in technology. Let's say, there's an update in past like 2 months, or let's say in 2 weeks. So what is that, pep talk, or let's say that instruction that you give to your team that, okay, there's a new development that's going on, and how do we need to adapt it? Do you have any, any talk like that, starting
Yeah,
with?
absolutely. So my team and I are essentially, as soon as something comes out, we're right on it. We test,
Oh,
we play with whatever new features are out. For example, if tomorrow Google released Veo 4, I am telling you this right now, we will be right on it. We will ensure that we have tested it as much as possible. We're making sure, we're trying to figure out how we can use this in GENii or PERSONii. um, and it is honestly the fun part of the job. You get to play around with all these toys that you know a lot of people are not able to access, and you're just sort of like, oh wow, this is this will revolutionize the world. But yeah,
Exactly.
that's our go-to strategy. Just go knees deep and see what we can do.
Awesome, Varad. So you know what? When you're just mentioning this point out to me, I feel that there's a lot of versatility in technology, and it feels like Varad, you'll have the feeling that there's no technology that I have not tabbed with. So
Yeah.
you just have that complete comfort with every technology that's coming in order for now.
You need to see. The thing is, everything is moving so fast that it's important to ensure that we are up to date so that we can guide you the best way possible as a customer, right? If we're not able to do that, then I believe that we have failed, essentially. So
Yep.
the fact that we're doing this is essentially our way of saying that we are going to make sure that our customers are provided with the best possible solution, and
All
that
right.
that works for them.
That's brilliant, Varad. Now, Varad, if I would just like to, ask you this, like, what is your view on integrating the multi-modular microservices, the multi-modular microservices with the data ingestion, the semantic indexing, the LLM Q and A's, and along with that, would you like to explain the working of a microservice, or let's say the meaning of a microservice to our listeners?
Absolutely. Think of it like a well-organized team where everyone has one job and they do it brilliantly. With traditional software, it's like having one person be the accountant, the receptionist, the manager, the janitor, everything. And it works until it doesn't.
Hmm.
With microservices, we break everything down to specialists. So we have a data ingestion service, for example, which is like the world's best librarian. Um, it knows exactly how to collect information and store it. We have semantic indexing services, which is like a research genius, which understands how different ideas connect with each other.
Hmm.
Then we have the Q and A service, which is like the consultant, right? So it is able to get the answers and sort of create a mix of what works, what doesn't, what the query is related to, and it's able to get data from multiple sources and combine it all together into one cohesive, answer. And the magic happens because they're all independent. You know, if we need more documents, we just scale up the librarian. If the queries are running slower, we just optimize the consultant, right? If one service needs maintenance, then we're not going to stop everything.
Yep.
In enterprise environments, this is a need. This is something that is essential. This is not a nice to have. Or think of it like a bank. You can't have an entire bank be shut down purely because the cash withdrawal services are not working. And that is sort of the idea we want to take. And that is where microservices play a really important role with enterprise applications.
All right. Now, you were just talking about the data ingestion. Now, when we talk about data ingestion with that of the, let's say, the streaming data and unstructured data, so what are the, technologies that you have put in place for this to, make the best excellence of that?
So we have what we have designed is the multi-source hybrid RAG architecture.
Hmm.
This architecture essentially, in order to explain this, I'll need to explain what RAG is. But the idea is that um, when you have an AI system, AI application, um, you provide it with information that is coming straight from a particular data source. And the AI, or I should say, the large language model is smart enough to sort of decipher what the question is and how the answer relates to the question and how to formulate that answer. It worked really well, but the issue with that is it's only limited to one source of data. With multi-source hybrid RAG architecture, I feel like if I keep saying this, I will get in a tongue twister. But with this architecture, the idea is that it is able to simultaneously query multiple sources of data. And based on which data source is actually relevant. So if your query relates to documents, it will go to the documents. If it's related to a database, it will go to the database. So it's not just limited to one or the other. And the idea is that it is able to intelligently retrieve the correct information and formulate that response. And the way it does it is if there are multiple sources being queried at the same time, then we can allow the language model to analyze all of the data and sort of give a cohesive answer together so that so essentially what we're doing is analyzing, structured data and unstructured data together. Think about it this way. It's like comparing apples and oranges. You know how people say you can't compare apples and oranges? I say you can. And that's what we're doing here.
Brilliant, brilliant. Uh, Varad. So I think, now I got the clear understanding of a traditional RAG architecture, and so our, listeners have got the hang of it. Now, Varad, if you just like, give me a walkthrough, or let's say, help me understand this, like, how would you like to explain the terminology or differentiate the terminology of an AI powered solution to that of a conventional, uh, you know, uh, conventional software solution in the IT industry, and how would you explain its working altogether?
So that's a great question. With conventional software solutions, it's like a really sophisticated calculator. You have the same input and you have the same output, and it's predictable. You can understand, um, how everything is working, and there is a very specific routine to it. With AI powered systems, think of it as a smart colleague who can make connections that you haven't even thought of. Personi, as an example, it might
Right.
notice, someone who loves, yeah, as I said before, as someone who loves a dystopian novel, and
Hmm.
it can recommend them sci-fi movies. Yeah, even though these specific rules are not programmed into it. So it is completely probabilistic, and that probability allows it to be very versatile and essentially take in cases that it wasn't originally programmed for.
Okay.
But here's the catch. Conventional software fails predictably, right? You have a bug,
Mhm.
you know where the bug is, you go solve it, done. AI fails very creatively, which is honestly both exciting and it's terrifying. You know, think about it this way, right? In 100, 200 years, whenever, we have a system like Skynet, which can control all these robots, and we give it a directive,
Mhm.
hey, go fix global warming. It's going to see, okay, what is causing global warming? Humans are using cars. Humans are, generating power through coal power plants. Humans are doing this. Humans are doing that. How do I fix this? Get rid of humans. Not safe.
Oh my God, that is like dangerous. I mean, that's a dangerous solution altogether.
Exactly. So it becomes very important as a technology, as an AI company. It becomes, I wouldn't say this is just important. This is sort of our duty to ensure that AI systems are grounded at all
All right.
times and they have the correct guardrails so they don't steer off in a direction we don't want them to.
All right. That certainly explains the answer. All the way, let's say if if, let's say the robots have come to an understanding where, humans are the cause for the problem, will there be a situation, I'm just saying it's a very hypothetical case, will there be a situation where, the robots will, wage a war against the humans, and again, it will be like a very unimaginable situation.
If we lose our ethics and morals, I feel like it would be the case. If Because the thing is, that's when you start to cut corners and you start to compromise on security in the name of just getting something done quickly or something done for a high price. It's That is what makes it so dangerous, that if that was to be the case and we didn't put the right guardrails and the correct infrastructure in place, then yeah, that is a genuine possibility. But the good thing is that will probably happen not for a very long time, so I think we're safe for now.
Yeah. In case, even if you're not safe, let's say, the robots have just come to the understanding, okay, this is the right thing. But to stop the robots and, before they take a decision, would AI, create a particular job or an opportunity for a person to control before the system actually, takes an action? Will there be a, role for that in the future?
Who knows? Because honestly, right now humans are struggling to understand how AI even thinks. Right? We don't know how GPT works. We just know it works.
Hmm.
Even
Yeah.
Sam Altman from OpenAI, the guys up in Anthropic, they tried to understand it, but everyone's kind of saying that, hey, we have no idea. It is all probabilistic. So it's hard to say whether there will ever be an opportunity. It might honestly be very visible in the sense that we might see certain signs and might be able to fix it. But then the question is, what if they become very good at I don't know, hiding from us and essentially just going on doing their own thing in secret.
I
So
think that's
it's
to the high rise,
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's to the high rise, Varad. Probably all these Hollywood movies where they were talking about AI, and AI is actually weaponizing and going to that level. Probably that kind of a situation may arise, but it's too early to talk about it.
Exactly. But it's fun to just think about it hypothetically and
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Now, Bharat, earlier you just, explain the working of how a traditional RAG architecture actually works. Now, I would just like to, rephrase the thing to you and ask you, like, when you actually were building or let's say designing the multi-level RAG architecture in your previous tenure, like, what was your drive or push to, to design the same?
Well, I honestly was a this was when I was first learning about RAG in 2023, maybe early 2024. It's been a while. But the idea came to me when I was first learning about RAG, and I realized that this system, this architecture, this is really good for if I want answers from documents or if I want answers from a database. But there are a lot of situations where I want answers from both of them at the same time, and I just wanted to analyze the comparisons for me. And what I started to realize was, for just as projects that I'd built in my personal time, I had built a database, SQL database version of RAG and a
Mhm.
and a document version of RAG. And what I'd realized was I was querying one of them, taking that answer, then pasting it to the other RAG system, and then getting it to provide me with the analysis. And that just seemed very inefficient. So that's when I sort of started to put my pen on the paper and come up with an architecture that it could, evolve in. But at the time, I didn't really think much of it. As time went on, I realized that we realized that GENii actually benefits from an architecture like this. So GENii is currently, you know, if, has the potential of using this multi-source hybrid RAG architecture, which allows it to just go and query whatever data that needs to be queried.
All
And the
right.
benefit of this architecture also, I should say, is that it's not just limited. So it's not just giving you an answer randomly. It looks at the beauty of GENii is it looks at who you are and what type of data you're actually able to view in an organization. Think about it this way.
Okay.
An intern is not going to be able to see the same, is not going to be able to have the same level of access as a CEO would. But
Yep.
if you want an intern and a CEO to use the same system, you have to give it a level of access. And this system is actually
Exactly.
intelligent enough to understand that, hey, this access
Hmm.
is, this data is only allowed for this, so we'll just give it to this person.
Indeed, indeed. That totally summarizes the point here. Now, I'm just very keen to understand this. Like when you were talking about creating the RAG architecture for the SQL database, and for that of let's say the document processing, like how accurate were the results? Do you rate it on the scale of 100 by 100, or do you say that there was a little bit of a glitch here and there?
See, with AI, you'll always find a probability curve, and the idea is that it's never going to be 100% accurate. And no matter how strong you make your prompts, no matter how good your language model is, that there
Hmm.
may be certain times when there is a little bit of discrepancy, or there may be a wrong you know um, query that is generated, which then goes haywire essentially.
Okay.
But as these systems have evolved, as and with that, prompting has also evolved.
Yep.
So what I'm sort of noticing is, what we as an organization actually are noticing is that as these AI system evolve, we tend to find that our results are getting more accurate over time. And the beauty of this is that now we're working with a trajectory that if AI improves, our application will also improve.
Okay. Okay.
So that is honestly a really good benefit of
Hmm.
something like this, that we can utilize the model's strength to its fullest. To any model
Okay.
it could be. And the beauty of the way that we have built this architecture is that we're not just limited to one model. We
Okay.
use multiple models for multiple things. One model may be really good at understanding video. One model where we would be good at understanding human expressions and talking to the actual person. So it has the intelligence to pick the right model for the right job.
Exactly. Exactly. That really strikes a bell with me. Now, what are the key areas, key domains, and the target markets in terms of the geography that your company Neural Hive is currently focused on?
So GENii specifically, if I should say, or even PERSONii, um, we have seen some very interesting patterns with these two applications. Professional services, for example, they are huge for us. Your law firms, your consulting companies, engineering practices, even customer service. These are organizations that rely on knowledge retrieval, or quick knowledge retrieval, I should say. And we can see these these evolve from just simply searching through their SharePoint documents and figuring out what the right information is, to simply just putting in a query. It gives you the information, it gives you the references where it got
Hmm.
it from, and then it goes on from there. Healthcare
Okay.
is another big area. Here, you want accuracy, you want security as well, and you want to be quick. Because it could honestly mean that a doctor is time bound and they may need to get an answer very quickly, but the patient's file is in drawer E in some random facility or whatever it may be. Financial services is another big area with huge potential. Your investment services, where you can look at a person's investment preferences and based on that recommend them stocks that they would want to purchase or ETFs and stuff they would want to purchase. Um, and here is
Yeah, Varad, can you hear me?
yes, sorry, I think I got disconnected there.
No, no problem. You can continue from that. No problem.
So as I was saying, financial services are another big area. Here, we're talking about banks, investment companies, insurance companies, etc. Here it's where we can use PERSONii as well. We can recommend users what kind of uh, stocks they could purchase based on their portfolio preferences, or
Okay.
we can get information about them very quickly. Now, geographically speaking, right now we are starting with English speaking countries, so your America and Melbourne, but we're
Mm-hmm.
also with the way we have built everything, we can handle multiple languages um, from day one. So
Mm.
we're not limited geographically.
Okay. That's a brilliant thing. Now, what like now in Australia, there's a demand for, the construction industry. So is Neural Hive, thinking of, expanding its, wings towards that side, or it's still, taking a little bit of time to think over on that?
Absolutely. So we're actually analyzing how the trends are going these days. So construction is a very big area in Australia. Even real estate is a very big area in Australia. And we are constantly looking at how we can benefit these organizations in improving their quality and their systems, their existing systems. One of the biggest things is having a customer facing chatbot so that people can constantly be in touch with the business. And the
Yep.
beauty of GENii is the way we have built it is that we're not only limited to just a internal facing chat Q and A system, but we can also
Hmm.
make it external facing so that
Okay.
the the users, so the customers only have access to the public information that is available in GENii.
Hmm.
So we can allow that segregation. So I was saying in the before how we can restrict certain information from an intern as opposed to from a CEO. We can also use those same principles to restrict information that is only available to public as opposed to everyone else.
Okay.
And we allow for granular level of access.
Okay.
So construction, obviously, coming back to the question, construction and real estate have been, they're very big in Australia, and we're constantly looking at how we can improve their businesses as well. And to a very large extent, they would follow the same sort of organizational organizational processes as any other professional service would, your law firms, your consulting companies, etc. But there are also certain automation opportunities that allow us to, provide these companies with secure AI workflows that, perform certain tasks for them. So if there is, for example, a uh, repetitive report, a report that you have to generate every single month. We can
Hmm.
create a we can
Yeah.
create a version of GENii which essentially just creates the report every month based on certain data that it gets from GENI's knowledge base, and
Yeah.
done. It does it in a few seconds as opposed to doing it by hand, every couple of hours.
Basically, if I'm just trying to understand Jenny's, let's say application in this particular thing, it's more like, with respect to the repeated work, it's like a template that it already has in its mind, in its memory, right?
The way we like to describe GENI is it's an operating system,
Mm-hmm.
and we have these applications that sit on top of it. And these
Hmm.
applications can utilize GENI and perform whatever tasks they need to perform. So yes,
Okay.
it's kind of like what you just said. It has certain templates, but it also has the ability to essentially be a secure foundational environment where everything
Okay.
sits within.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's a groundbreaking one, Varad, for sure. And probably, once everyone knows out of neural hive, or let's say out of different geographies, I think GENii is going to pick up pace. I hope, that day also comes for sure.
That day, yeah, when that day comes, I'll be right here on your podcast and I'll be cheering.
100%, 100%. It's not far off for sure. Right. So now, Varad, like, I just wanted to ask you this, like, how are you able to link the CI/CD pipelines, let's say like Jenkins, with that of the AI intelligence? Like, how are these two worlds, blended together?
So this is where DevOps actually meets ML ops, if you will. And things get very interesting. Now, I was saying that how GENii, we are building agents on top of GENii, which will allow us to perform certain tasks like writing reports and stuff. We can also build AI agents, and we can utilize predictive AI to essentially identify issues and bugs, errors, things like that before a deployment takes place.
Okay.
We can utilize the power of predictive AI to see if there are any potential bugs or any exploits that are being passed into the deployment. We can utilize AI agents to provide suggestions in the workflow, provide suggestions that could essentially improve the performance of an application. For example, if
Okay.
there is a loop in the code which doesn't need to be there, the AI agent can send you an email and say, "Hey, or even a message and say, "Hey, we found this we found this loop. I don't know what it's doing here. Do you want to remove it?" And then you just click a button and then it removes it. So the idea is that we're essentially making our development workflows a lot more intelligent so that we are not accidentally missing something that could essentially destroy an entire organization.
I know that. I mean, it's all about, optimizing things and, keeping a balance at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You software infrastructure is it's very important for most organizations, and if there is
Yeah.
even the slightest exploit there, it can do a lot of damage. We see cases a lot of the times, like Optus, for example,
Hmm.
or even what was it, Bupa, I think, or Medibank. I'm not too sure. Where there were cases in the past. Um, we really want to make sure that things like that don't happen, and AI systems are actually a good way to identifying those threats early. Of course, I'm not saying this is a replacement for standard testing and just making sure that everything is okay, but this is a good way to sort of identify if there is something that was missed.
Indeed, indeed. Now, you just gave me an example where, the AI agent is actually coming as a notification and saying that there's a code bug here, and, there's some kind of a glitch with respect to the code. Did that ever occur to you, Varad, that, AI agents also require a logo kind of a thing, a face, like a digital employee in an organization, and, treat it like a mascot? Is there an idea for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the other day, the funniest thing is, the other day I was thinking about what if AI agents could be on LinkedIn, and what if there was a LinkedIn type of application where AI agents could just go on and talk about, today was a hard day at work. I fixed 3,000 bugs, did this, did that. That would be an interesting day, but yeah, I mean, having some sort of like an identity associated to AI agent sort of gives it a more, um, you know, human-like feel, if you will. Like you're more open to actually relying on it. And I guess that's why we named GENii the way we did. It sounds like
Yeah.
a very, natural human kind of name rather than,
Exactly.
Jarvis, which comes straight from.
Jarvis is a very sophisticated name. I think Marvel people just went with a lot of, creativity in
Yeah,
bringing the
they
sophistication
did.
there.
They did. But now every time I think about Jarvis, I'm just like, oh wow, robots.
Indeed, indeed. So, like, when we're talking about the mascots in the AI agents, like, for people to understand, okay, this AI agent is used for this one. And so probably if we give a face to the AI agent, like, let's say like an emoji or a smiley, or let's say a cartoon character, probably the work for the people will be much more easier to understand it.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to make it as relatable, I guess, as possible for the humans
Yeah.
to actually uh, be okay with trusting it in certain ways.
Yeah.
But I feel like eventually we'll get to the point where everyone would have to rely on it, and there's no other way.
Indeed, yeah. That it is actually, clinching to that kind of a thing in the future. So let's see how things go for now. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Bharat, if I would just like to, understand this, like, are there any success stories that you would like to share? That you have experienced in your journey with our listeners?
We're still very early on with our journey, but the pilot testing of our systems have been very encouraging. In our seeing our proof of concept go from, just a random application to something that enterprises can actually rely on after, like engulfing essentially decades of documents and database and data from database and everything. It's honestly very rewarding, and being able to solve questions that would take 3 to 5 business days and getting the answer in what, 2 seconds. It's become very clear to us. We know exactly where we're going with PERSONii. Actually, we have actually seen improvements in user engagement as well as um, user attention, where we're seeing how people can relate to with the recommendations provided with PERSONii, and how surprisingly how well it works with cross-domain recommendations. Recommending your favorite, recommending you food places based on movies you like to watch. I don't know. it's
Wow.
yes, it's all been very exciting, and just imagining how this could all change people's work, daily work. One day, instead of them spending hours just hunting down information, they can actually focus on what they're hired for.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of impact we're building towards.
That's a brilliant initiative, Bharat. Now, Bharat, it actually gives me a new idea here. But let's say a particular person is interested in watching Formula One. Probably, if he's interested in Formula One, then Personi can give them an idea where there are actually local races going on and there's tickets for that. So probably connecting all
Absolutely.
of them together.
Absolutely. I mean, it comes up, you can have like so many great, connections and things. Like it will be able to just give you anything. Like the other day, I was just testing Pisani with a simple front end that I had built, which had, movies and uh, posts, just news articles and books. And I was really interested in seeing how it would connect everything. And what it was doing was, if I liked anything that had any, if I liked anything that was, geopolitics related, I would
Mhm.
start to get book recommendations like the Communist Manifesto, or the autobiographies of certain politicians. The other day when I was playing around with Pisani, we were kind of seeing how we can relate books and movies and news articles together. what we noticed was every time I liked anything that had to do with geopolitics, I was getting book recommendations like, the Communist Manifesto, or, autobiography of some politician who was very influential, things like that. And I was just here like, wow, it actually understood what I what I want. And it's
Brilliant.
not
Yeah.
just about what you like, but also what you dislike. If you don't like anything, you don't want to see things
Yeah.
like that, right? So I kept on saying, hey, I
Exactly.
don't want to see anything to do with cryptocurrency. And suddenly all my movie recommendations went from, finance related, crypto related movies to
Yeah.
something about, some Bollywood movies. So it was
Yeah.
it was very interesting to see how the whole system works, and yeah, it's been amazing.
That's a pretty interesting one, Bharat. So, Bharat, now, before we actually, conclude our podcast session, let's actually take a lighter route in the form of a quick rapid fire. So, all this while we were just talking about, Personi, GENii, and, all the, the creative aspects that you have built towards it, the initiatives that you've taken, and about your IT journey, and multiple things of, how you're able to link the CI/CD pipelines with AI ultimately. So, in the form of a quick rapid fire, we'll be just talking about about your personal interests and likes without, going much into the technical stuff, which we were just talking earlier,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. Right. So, if I would just like to, put this across to you, Bharat, like, what's your favorite sports team? Like, what would that be?
Team India cricket.
Team India. All right. Okay, then. Then who would be your favorite, Indian cricketer of all time?
See, okay. Here's where it gets controversial. Kapil Dev was probably one of the greatest batsmen. Yeah, because I watched 83 the other day, and I was also reading the news articles around the 83 World Cup. And
Mhm.
that match that wasn't televised by BBC, I
Yes.
was reading
Yeah.
about that, and I got so excited. So ever since that day, I always say that my favorite cricketer of all time, Kapil Dev.
Kapil Dev. That's a pretty good, choice. He's the greatest of all time for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you just were talking about sci-fi films, Bharat. Now, if I would just like to ask you this, what is your favorite sci-fi movie of all time? Then what would you say that would be?
Oh, that's a good question. Iron Man. Iron Man.
Iron
I
Man.
absolutely loved Iron Man. The reason for that is the reason why I loved I absolutely fell in love with AI was because of Jarvis.
Okay.
And I was so interested in building my own Jarvis that does everything for me. And here we are, 10, 20 years later, I'm working on Jenny and all these AI agents.
Probably you should, give a word of thanks to Jarvis as well, because Jarvis gave you the idea to build your,
Absolutely.
the
Thank
different
you.
cutting
Thank you,
edge things.
Jarvis.
Awesome, 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 Bharat. So, what is your favorite Hollywood destination of all time?
Hollywood destination.
Yeah,
A holiday destination, you mean?
holiday destination. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Um, ooh, that's a good question. I love to visit India every time I go.
Hmm.
Because I have a lot of family members there. But I do want to go, I don't want to say something that's very, like obviously I love Australia, I love India, where else? I am in absolute awe of Texas,
Okay.
specifically Dallas, because um I have some friends there, but the biggest impact that Dallas has had on me is the food. The food there
Okay.
is amazing. It's absolutely brilliant. The way they do barbecue and they have a lot of Texas Mexican food. They call it
Yeah.
Tex-Mex. It is
Tex-Mex. Yeah.
so great. It's amazing.
Awesome. Now, if I would just like to, ask you this, like, what is that, best, let's say, that food that you would like to, recommend to our listeners from your native place in India? What would
Yes.
that be?
So in India, I'm from Kashmir, and
Okay.
we do Rogan Josh really well. But if you're a vegetarian, we do damalu really well.
Hmm.
So these two dishes, they're essentially cooked very similarly, but the flavor of it is comes from the actual main product. So if it's Rogan Josh, it would be the lamb. If it's Damalu, it would be the potato. And the flavor of the main substance mixed with the spices, it's beautiful. It's
Oh,
absolutely beautiful. And when you mix it with a little bit of yogurt in the middle, it is amazing. I love it.
oh wow. That's pretty yummy to, hear about the damalu for sure. Awesome. That's good. So, Varad, finally, thank you so much for, taking time from your busy schedule and finally making this happen through this podcast initiative. Trust me, I just had a great conversation with you. It was just like a great conversation, going front and back with the different types of cutting edge technologies that were there, especially about PERSONii, GENii. The major thing that, hit me was how you're able to, link the worlds of DevOps and AI. This was like a complete, what do I say, a very different approach and a very creative approach. And having said that, the most important thing which I really found interesting was the data ingestion model with respect to the multi-level architecture. That was completely mind-blowing. So
Thank you for having me. It was an amazing conversation, and I'd love to get on again once Neural Hive has set its legs in all organizations, if you will.
definitely, we'll definitely plan for our next collaboration together, and that's not far away for sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So, listeners, before we actually, conclude our podcast episode, so on a good note, I mean, I really thank you for your support and making Tech Space podcast a super success with a lot of a lot of choices, and again with a lot of subscriptions and understanding and giving a lot of support towards this channel. So. On this note, this is your host Akhil Navluri signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode very soon with another industry leader. So till then, take care, stay tuned, goodbye, thank you. Au revoir and goodbye. Thank you.